Hello guys, welcome back to Math Zone African Motives, still on our mathematics N4, and this is another part that is important in our simplification, that is the sum and difference of two cubes. Remember, we have a difference of two squares from our factorization: a squared minus b squared, which is equal to a minus b into a plus b. We do not have a sum of two squares. A squared plus b squared cannot be factorized. All right, we do not have a sum of two squares. But when it comes to the cubes, a cube, we are now talking about a number that is our expression that are being raised to the exponent of 3, where we have got the first term raised to the exponent of 3, the last term also raised to the exponent of 3, like that. How do we factorize such type of expressions? They can be factorized. All right, so this is the format. We are going to have the first term plus the last term. Take note, this is your first term and this is the last term. So you're going to add them in the first bracket. Then the other bracket, you're going to have the first term squared minus the product of first and last plus the last term squared. Take note, it was a plus here. It is a plus here, but this changes to a minus. The part of this, this middle term is the one that is affected. You're going to see also on a minus that the middle term is the one that is always affected. All right, this is x to the exponent of 3 minus y to the exponent of 3. That is going to be the minus is going to remain as it is on the first bracket. The first and last, we are subtracting first and last term. But the second bracket, we're going to have the first term squared. Then what happens? We are having a plus. This is a minus. It changes. Just like here, a plus changes to a minus. So a minus is going to change to a plus. All right. So this is going to be plus product of what? The first and what? The first and last plus the last term squared. So this is how you factorize such type of expressions. So what is important is that we have the first term. We properly see our first term and our last term. The first term and the last term. The sign does not affect our term to say the term here is a minus. The minus is the one that we are seeing here, the one that changed to a plus. All right. Not to say if this is a minus, we are going to write this as a minus. No, we are taking the first, this is the term, and this is the last. All right. This is the first, this is the last. You consider those letters, not the sign. The sign is considered when factorizing to say it is a plus, the one that was here, then changes to a minus on the middle term. That is the idea. So they are not going to give you simpler questions like this, whereby you are given just factorize x to the exponent of 3 plus 8. Where we know this here, it can be written as x to the exponent of 3 plus 2 to the exponent of 3, whereby we properly see our first and last term. The first term being x, the last term being what? Being a 2. This is what we see. The first term and the last term. So from this one of an addition, we are saying it is going to be the first plus the last term in the first bracket. So that's the first term, which is x, and the last term added together. So that is going to be x plus 2. All right. Then the first squared, the first term squared, which is x being squared. So that is going to be x squared minus xy, which is minus the first times the last term, the first term times the last term. So it's a product of these two, the first term to the last term. So that is x times what? X times 2, which is going to give us 2x. But there is what? A negative there. Plus y squared means the last term squared. Our last term is what? It's 2. So that's 2 squared. And 2 squared is what? It's a 4. So we have factorized this. All right? So they are going to give you questions like this. Let us talk about the typical questions in our syllabus. 2x plus 5y to the exponent of 3. Don't panic. Don't panic. That is how you'll be given. There's nothing there. It's just one and the same thing. Okay, see this. You are asked to factorize this. So the question is asking you to factorize completely. Okay, so this is what you just need. Can you locate the first term and the last? Yes, this is our first. The bracket of what? The bracket of 2x plus 5y as it is. The last, the bracket of x minus 3y, the whole bracket, this one as it is. You consider that term as it is. That is your x, that is your y. So some, they use a and b. It's fine. You can use a and b. So that means in our factorization, we've got a negative here. So you consider this one, that has got a negative. So it's going to be the first term minus the last term. All right. So we're going to have this. The first term is what? It's 2x plus 5y. That's our first term. It's a bracket, that one. Minus the last x minus y. The last y is the last term. The last term is what? It's x minus 3y in a bracket. No, don't worry. The simplification is not even required. So this represents the first term minus the last term in a bracket. So we are going to open a bracket for this. First term minus what? The last term. We move on. The first term squared. The first term squared. What is our first term? This is our first term, 2x plus 5y. So we're going to have the first term squared, 2x plus 5y squared. That is the part of what? X squared. Plus, the sign there, it changes to a what? A plus. It was a minus here. Now it's a plus. Plus what? The product of x and y. Meaning to say the product of what? The first term, and the last term. The product of the first and the last. That is the xy that we are seeing on this part. So we are supposed to be careful. Very, very careful in our simplification. We are supposed to be very, very careful. So this is the product of the first and last. X, the first and the last. All right, so let us take this one. So we need the product of first and last. And on our expression, what is the first? On our expression here, this is what we have. Okay, let's try to reduce this. All right, so this is what we have. On our expression, this is our first term. This is our last term, xy. So the first term is the bracket of what? The bracket of 2x plus 5y. So I want you to take note on this one. In most cases, they want you to simplify this to be a single expression. The rest, they are not worried about this one. But for this one, for you to be safe, they want you to expand this. So let me just write it here. We say the first and what? Last. The first term, 2x plus 5y times the last, x times y. The last term is what? X minus 3y. So like I said, in most cases, they want you to simplify this. So you're just going to expand 2 times x. That will be 2x squared. 2 times minus 3 minus 6xy. There's xy there. 5y times x, that will be positive 5xy. 5y times minus 3y, that will be minus 15y squared. So as we can see, if we collect our like terms, we're going to remain with 2x squared minus 6xy plus 5xy. That will be a positive, negative, so that's negative 1. So that's negative 1xy. But negative 1xy is same as what? Minus xy. All right. There is, take note, a negative. There is a negative there. Then this is a positive. All right. So we have to consider that. So this is going to be a negative 1, not negative 11. No. In negative 11 is totally wrong because there we are adding minus 6 plus what? Plus 5, which is minus 1. Take note about that. Then the minus 15y squared, this part remains as it is. All right. So we are having the part of what? Of minus 15y squared. So this is going to be minus 15y squared. So this is what we are having. It's a single term. It's like an expression that we have expanded from these two brackets. The bracket of what? 2x plus 5y and the bracket of x minus 3y. This is what we have expanded. Expand properly, considering your signs also. All right, we are here at this stage of xy, the first and last. Then the last one is plus y squared, plus y squared. What does it mean? Plus the last term squared, y is the last term. So it's plus the last term squared, and what is our last term? It's x minus 3y. So we're going to have the bracket of x minus 3y squared like this. That is our last term squared. So we have factorized this. Like I said, do not expand. What we just need is to have our first minus the last term. Then we saw the part of what? The first term plus the product of first and last plus the last squared. That format is the one that you are simply working with. Only that in most cases, they want you to simplify this, but in actual sense, you are just supposed to write your two brackets here, 2x plus 5y, the bracket of what? Of x minus 3y. You can even leave it like that, all right? No complications, all right? So that is how you are going to have your questions that are under this factorization, where we are talking about the sum and the difference of what? Of two cubes. So it can be a sum, it can be a difference. All right, we do not have a sum of two squares, but when it comes to cubes, these numbers raised to the exponent of 3, we have the sum of what? Of two cubes. All right, so you just have to revise as much questions. Like I said before, it's very, very important that you do revise. Factorize, again, we are asked to factorize completely, and we are given 64 into a minus 1 to the exponent of 3 minus a plus 1 to the exponent of 3. And we're asked to factorize there. All right, take note there. You're supposed to be very, very careful. Is it a cubic expression? Do we have a difference of two cubes there? We can see the 3 here, but we do not see it on this 64. So meaning to say, we are supposed to ask ourselves is that, can this 64 be written as a number to the exponent of 3? And what is that number? That is 4. So for you to know that number, since you want to know the number that you raise to the exponent of 3, you simply determine the cube root of 64 on your calculator. That is, you get what? A 4. So meaning to say 4 to the exponent of 3 gives us what? A 64. So this same simplification that we see here is or can be written as 4. In actual sense, it was supposed to be written as 4 to the exponent of 3. All right, for 64, we have got 4 to the exponent of what? Sorry for that. Let me change this one. Let's just hope we're going to win here. Okay, very sorry for that. So I was saying this one is 4 to the exponent of 3 from the 64 that we are having here. All right. Then we have got a minus 1 to the exponent of 3 like this. This is how we are supposed to write it. But guys, remember that I said from our exponents, if you are given a times b to the exponent of m, having the same exponent, it is same as a to the exponent of m, b to the exponent of m. So if these can be separated before they were written like this, it means we can also rewrite this as a single term being raised to a single exponent. A single exponent, which is the exponent of what? Of 3, which is the same exponent. We've got the same exponent m and m. So we can write it as a single number raised to a single exponent. So instead, we can write this as what? As 4a, 4 into the bracket of a minus 1 like this. Everything that we are having here being raised to the exponent of what? Of 3. That is what I'm trying to say. Take note, we could have written this way, which is one and the same thing. Minus what? A plus 1 to the exponent of 3. So now we can properly see everything raised to the exponent of 3, everything raised to the exponent of 3. We can properly see our difference of two cubes. So from the difference of two cubes, we said for us to factorize this, we're going to have what? The first minus the last. What is our first? This is our first, the first bracket. So you have to properly locate your first, which is the bracket of what? 4 into a minus 1. The whole of this part, it represents your first term which is your x, this x here. This here represents our last term, which is what? The part of y that we are given there. So how do we factorize? We're going to have x minus y from this. We said we're going to have x minus y, the first minus the last. All right, that is the case there, the first minus the last. So the first, it's 4 into a minus 1 minus the last term, which is a plus 1, like that. So this is the indication of what? Of x minus y. Into the bracket of first term squared, x squared represents the first term. All right, the first term, this one, the first term squared. So what does it mean? It means we've got 4 into a minus 1, like this, everything being squared. That is our a, that is our x squared, I mean, plus the product of xy, which is the product of the first and the last. The product of the first and what? The last. So what do we have? All right, like I said, for this one, in most cases, they want you to simplify this. So it's 4 into a minus 1, that is our first term, times the last term, which is the bracket of what? A plus 1. Guys, we know this, a minus 1, a plus 1. A minus 1 into a plus 1 is a difference of 2 squares, which was taken from a squared minus 1 squared, and 1 squared is same as 1. So you can expand by 4, 4 times a, which is going to be 4a squared, or 4 times a squared, then 4 times minus 1, which is minus 4. So this here, it indicates or represents what? This product of xy, the product of the first and last, plus the last term squared, that is the y squared, the last term squared, and our last is what? It's a plus 1. So that will be a plus 1 squared, like this. We have factorized everything. Yes, here you can write as it was 4 into the bracket of a minus 1 into the bracket of a plus 1. It's up to you. But in most cases, be careful, they simplify further. So in case that they have simplified further for you, you are supposed to be careful, because you know these guys, when they are marking, guys, we do not know, people are marking there, someone is having something and this and that. So just try to write your answers in simpler form. But for the exam purpose, that is what you are supposed to have, how they want you to present your final answers. All right, let's consider this one. 27 over 64, x to the exponent of 6 minus 8 q to the exponent of 3 over 125. Can this be factorized? All right. Can this be factorized? All right, it's like we just have a difference. We do not have a sum. No, we have got a sum. Like the first question that I referred you guys, where it was a cubed plus 8. It was a sum, that one. Okay, let's see that, guys, here. Remember the concept. We are supposed to have our numbers raised to the exponent of 3 to see the cube part. So 27, 3 to the exponent of 3, 64, 4 to the exponent of 3. What about x to the exponent of 6? How can we write it as x to the exponent of 3? It will be x to the exponent of 2 to the exponent of 3. Remember, what we want is to properly see the what? The 3. So that if everything is raised to the same exponent of 3, it means this can be written as this 3 over this 4. So it's going to be 3 over 4 x squared, which is being raised to the exponent of 3. Everything, because everything has got what? An exponent of 3 there. So you just write those numbers that are being raised to the exponent of 3 as they are. Then everything to the exponent of what? To the exponent of 3. Minus, you do the same thing on this number here. That is, we've got 8, which is same as what? 2 to the exponent of 3. Already we can see the q is raised to the exponent of 3, so there's nothing for us to simplify there. What about 125? This is 5 to the exponent of 3. This to the exponent of 3 to the exponent of 3 to the exponent of 3 means what? We have got 2 over 5 q as it is here, but raised everything to the exponent of what? To the exponent of 3. That is the idea there. Once we see this, guys, we are done. Because this is the right format for us to factorize. And we have it here. That is, we're going to have the first minus the last. The first minus the last. So the first term, which is 3 over 4x squared, minus the last, 2 over 5q, like that. Into what? X squared, which is the first term squared, the first term squared. All right? This is 3 over what? This is our first term. 3 over 4x squared. But they are saying we are supposed to square it. That is the first term squared. So here you can even raise, guys, to the exponent. This is a single term. This is not a bracket. So you can even raise, guys. 3 to the exponent of 3. 3 to the exponent of 2, sorry, that's 9. 4 to the exponent of 2, that is a 16. Sorry for that. That is a 16 here. Then x squared to the exponent of 2 is like this. X to the exponent of 2 to the exponent of 2 again. So exponent, you multiply. So it will be x to the exponent of what? A 4. All right, let's move on to the other one. Plus xy plus the product of the first and the last. The first term, 3 over 4x squared times the last, 2 over 5q, like that. That is our last term. Remember, guys, this is our presentation. This is our first here, and this is our last. So we are simply multiplying. That is the case that we are given there. Plus xy is the product of first and last. So if you simplify the numbers, that will be something like 3 over 10. So we're going to obtain 3 over 10. Then we have got x squared and what? A q. Plus the last term squared. This is our last here. So we are going to raise that last term to the exponent of 2. That is 2 over 5q raised to the exponent of 2. So everything is affected by the exponent of 2. 2 to the exponent of 2, which is 4. 5 to the exponent of 2, which is 25. Q also is raised to the exponent of 2, so it will be q squared. Thus, we are done. We have factorized everything. This is the format that we are given here. You just have to follow suit. Follow the format. How are we given it? How do we factorize? So if this was for a plus here, if this was a plus, this means it was going to be a plus. This was going to be a plus here, but this was going to be a minus. That is the only difference. Everything remains as it is. Only this part is the one that is affected by our sign. So be careful. Which sign is given and how do you work with that sign from these two? So these are your basics that you are supposed to know by heart. Once you know this concept by heart, it means, guys, you can be able to factorize any sum and any difference of what? Of 2 cubes. So more questions to come from Mason African Motives till we meet again.